Hey guys, in this video we're going to set up RPCS3, a PS3 emulator that runs on Windows. This emulator has a lot of settings and setup required compared to some other ones. So in this video specifically, I'm going to focus on just the initial setup, download, and getting your games running with their controller settings. I'm going to do a separate video specifically for video settings and advanced settings because I want to get more in depth in that, but I don't want to have a half an hour long video, as I'm sure you can appreciate. I'm going to put that video out later this week, so if you are interested in that or other emulation content or gaming content, guys, consider subscribing because I'm going to get that content out regularly. Cool, and with all that out of the way, let's get into it. Okay guys, so before we get into it, I'm going to have timestamps below. They should actually be in line with the video player, but you can check the description if not. I'm also going to have links to every website and every file that we need to download in the description as well, in case you miss it. You need to come back, then you can just remember to check there instead. So let's get 7-zip installed first, because we're going to need it to actually do any of the other steps. In your web browser, go to 7zip.org. And on here, we're just going to download the 64-bit. Download this file and run the installer. It should be a pretty basic setup. You can use the default program folder. Click install and close. Next thing we're going to do is go to RPCS3.net and go to the download tab. I'm going to focus on Windows. They do have a Linux build. Click download for Windows. Again, you can save it wherever you want. And this is a .7z file, so this will actually open up in that program called 7zip that we just installed. And it's basically like a zip file, if you're familiar. So what we need to do is create a new folder wherever you want to have RPCS3 installed. And you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it PS3. And just drag all of these files into this folder. You can close 7zip when you're done here. In fact, after you've actually transferred all these files, you can go ahead and delete the two files that we've already downloaded. We don't need those anymore. The next thing we need to do on the same website, we need to go to the quick start page. There's going to be two downloads for you here. You have to scroll down and go to software requirements. You're going to want to download this, the PlayStation 3 system software, and the Visual C++ redistributable. Download them both. If you don't know if you have this already installed, just try to download it. I installed it before this video, so we'll see what it looks like if you already have it installed, but you're going to get these two files. So first of all, run the redist program. Mine's already installed. You can see repair, uninstall. Yours will just say install and need an admin prompt, so just click install, and you will have to restart your computer after. After that's been installed, go to your PS3 folder, open the file called rpcs3.exe. You might get a prompt from Windows asking if it's safe. Just click more info and then allow it. When you open the program, you're going to get this prompt. This is just letting you know that that quick start guide that we went to before to get the files actually has a lot of information on installing the firmware, the games, the save data. I'm going to walk you guys through it, but all that information is here if you want to go and read through instead, or if you want to come back later just to read through it. You have to check mark I have read the quick start guide, and if you don't want to see this message again, you can click this box at the right here as well and click continue. You're going to get an empty window. This is effectively your PlayStation 3. The next thing we got to do is actually install that system software update. Click File, and then go to Install Firmware. Go to the folder where you put that file. I would suggest moving the file into your PS3 folder. And then select the file. Should say this, successfully installed PS3 firmware. Okay, so with the firmware set up and the files all set up, we're done installing this emulator. We're going to set up the controllers next. Click the pads button on the bar here. For player 1, at the top left, choose handlers and then choose your controller type. This will support PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, even a PlayStation 5 controller. And if you have an Xbox controller, choose X input. In case you don't have one of these types of controllers, you have a generic controller, most of the time like Logitech controllers and stuff like that will be X input, so I would try that first. I'm going to choose DualShock 4. Under devices, you should see if you have your controller here or not. Notice that mine's connected and it says number 1 not disconnected, so I'm going to choose that one. And if you want to create a specific profile for this controller, then you can click add profile. That's a little bit more advanced if you have multiple controllers and want separate configs for each, but let's just play our games today, right? So everything should be automatically mapped to your controller. But you might want to go through each of these controls and press each button individually. So to do that, you look at the button here, like D-pad up, you click on it, and then you just press up on your controller. Left, same thing. Left stick, you press up, and you just move your left stick up, and you should see Y plus, Y being the Y axis, and plus being up. I guess that's not obvious. Same thing with your right stick on the right side, so right stick up and it's plus Y. I can already tell that everything is mapped already. I'm going to test the PS button and it already recognizes it, so we're really good here. You can change the dead zones of the sticks if you want. So the dead zone is basically if your stick in its resting idle position is kind of moving your character in one direction, even if it's really slowly, you might want to increase your dead zone. The dead zone is basically the amount of space in the center that the program will ignore the stick. You can see I'm moving my stick at the bottom here very slightly, very slightly, but since it's in the dead zone, the game is not going to pick that up. That'd be too sensitive and it would actually cause some issues and maybe some annoyances. When you're done, just click save. The next thing we're going to do is install a game. The games are typically created from backups of a real PlayStation 3. That is a legitimate way to get the games and the only way that I will condone for this setup. You can dump games from your existing PlayStation 3 by following the instructions on the quick start guide that we were on earlier in the video, but we're not going to get into that for this video. We're going to assume that you already have your games available to you. Typically, your games are going to come in either a disk form or a PKG form. A PKG file is basically a PlayStation Network download. If it was a game that was purchased on the PlayStation Store, it's going to be a PKG file. So I'm going to show you how to play both types of files. There might be more, but these are the two main ones, and hopefully it's enough to cover for most of you guys. Open the PS3 folder that we created earlier. The quick start guide tells us to put our games in a specific folder. Look for dev HDD0. After this, click the disk folder. Move your game folder into that folder. Go back to RPCS3, click open. Go to the same folder, dev HDD0, disk. Select the folder for the game, and it should load up for you. This may take a while to open a game based on how strong your computer or your processor is. This is much more advanced emulation than like an old PlayStation or an N64, so there's a lot more that it has to do, and quite honestly, I'm not sure what it's doing behind the scenes, but it does it all automatically, so that's really good for us. You might get this firewall pop-up. Yours might look a little different. I'm on Windows 11. Just allow access, and you can see that it's running. Okay, so my copy of Dragon Ball is not working properly, so I wanted to just quickly show you what is supposed to happen by using Skate 3 instead. You can see I did the same thing. I did open, and I opened the game file, but it comes up in here as a disk game instead, and it actually loads in here automatically. Dragon Ball wasn't doing that, and my Dragon Ball was also not saving automatically. Skate is saving. So if yours isn't showing up, you might want to try redumping your game or trying a different copy or something. Okay, guys? For the PKG files, go back to the HDD0 folder, and instead of disk, go to game, and move your game into that folder. You'll see that there's already a test file in there. We don't need to worry about that stuff, just leave it as is. Back in RPCS3, click File, and Install Packages. Go back to the folder, the dev HDD0, and then Game. Go to your Game folder, and then choose your game. Click Open. It'll ask if you want to install this package. Yeah, we do. And after you do that, you'll see that it shows up in your actual game list. After it's installed, you can double click it or click play. Might freeze up a little bit, but typically the first time you run one of these games, it's going to have to create all these PPU modules and stuff like that. So I've noticed the second, third, fourth time running these games, it's a lot faster. But the first time might take a little while. Okay, so I had an issue where my compiler was stuck for an extended period of time. I closed it and reopened it, and it seems to have worked. So you might want to try that if it happens to you. But as you can see, it works. And when we close it, we still have it here. Now, if you're having any issues with your games, I would suggest you go back to the RPCS3 website and go to the compatibility tab. They have a list of 3,000 or so games, and their documented playability. So if it has green, it should be mostly playable. Nothing like majorly game breaking, but there might be some glitches and stuff like that. But unfortunately, a lot of games are not compatible yet. It's understandable. The PS3 was a complicated hardware. You know, no hate on anybody. Nothing but appreciation for the team that's been making this program. So shout out to those guys. If you see your game on here, you might want to click into it, and you'll get a wiki page that might have some suggestions if there's any known issues. This is a bad example, and I've clicked through a few and couldn't find a good example, but it might have some settings for you, such as this old one, black screen, and it'll have and I'll tell you how to fix those issues, guys. So I obviously can't go through every game here, and each game is a little bit different, but these guys are super blessed. These guys are super based and actually providing this resource for us, man. So take advantage of it, guys. It'll be really helpful for you. Some other basic troubleshooting, if you go to configuration and then system, you can change your console language to the language of your choice. I'm going to leave mine on English, but they have a lot of different languages. And you can also change your region. I have mine set to Europe because I had some European game dumps, but you can choose America, whatever you want. Keyboard type, all that stuff. I'm gonna create a couple more videos on this emulator. There's a lot of more deeper topics I want to get into, but I don't want to have a super long video like I've done in the past. It doesn't work. It's not good. Hopefully that got you guys started. Again, I'm going to be putting out the graphics and settings guide in a couple days, maybe by the end of week, depending how long it takes me to edit. So consider subscribing, guys. I'm going to have more content like this. I'm going to have more gameplay content, more emulator content. And I'm going to be pumping it out, man. So I hope you guys can join me for the ride. I appreciate it, and I hope I helped you guys. All the best.